Yeah, speaking of a guy who, has taken his shots at times, um, but is again, like, they haven't had success over the past couple of years. You look at Chris Ballard in Indianapolis. He's dealing with a situation that he really didn't. I don't know if he necessarily opted into this, but there is a spat right now between star running back Jonathan Taylor, who led the NFL in rushing in 2021, one of the more efficient seasons we've ever seen, and Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts. Jonathan Taylor very clearly looks at the running back situation that we talked about last Monday, and he's saying, I'm going to come up for free agency next year in a year where Saquon Barkley is also a free agent. Josh Jacobs is also a free agent. Tony Pollard's also a free agent. And he's looking at this market and he's saying, I better get paid by the team that I'm already on. And so he wants to get paid by Indianapolis. He's been sitting out after an injury last year. Jim Irsay reportedly, a lot of tweets basically saying, like, look, when both of us are dead, no one's going to remember us. You're not that big of a deal to the game. And, it comes out that Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade. This is tough, right? Because as a general manager, as a team builder, you obviously have to do, the owner's the boss. It's his train set, his or her train set. But it also, it makes it tough sometimes because he's obviously rubbed the player the wrong way. How do you deal in a situation like this where it's messy right now?
Number one thing is, you have to address the player. You have to pull him into your respective office as a general manager, if you can, and have the discussion with him. Or if it's virtual with the agent. You have to recognize the fact that in this situation that Mr. Irsay is known for having, strong, off the cuff, opinionated comments, which, back to Train said, it is his. He can do what he wants to do. But I think it's handling it and navigating it adeptly as a general manager and making sure that you communicate correctly, making sure that you never allude to the fact that your owner is I got to use the right word here because I'm not alluding to the fact that Mr. Irsay is, but that there's something wrong with that owner. Let's just leave it at that. You have to empathize or sympathize with the player, understand that this is a complicated situation, and it is very complicated. He said what he said. He's got some tongue in cheek to him, but then he's pretty opinionated about it. You have to navigate that. I had to navigate certain things with Arthur Blank, and I think he was one of the most thoughtful owners out there. But you remember that he had comments about Julio Jones being on our team for his career. Yep. This was before we were negotiating. I didn't make any comments about that out in the media and roll my eyes. That's really important. You don't do that. He had a point. We would love to have loved that player to be there for that many years. You just have to navigate it. You have to make sure that you're being correct with how you're communicating. And hopefully you can mollify the situation as a general manager when your owner is being strong about it. That's an important part.
Mollify, by the way, a Thomas Dimitroff word that you will also see in a lot of mathematics textbooks. Love that crossover there, Thomas. No, it's a great point. And the Colts, they let Edgerrin James go after a 1,500-yard season. They won the Super Bowl the following year. They gave Edge a ring, right? But you look at the history of the position. I can't necessarily blame Jim Irsay, for kind of his orientation here, especially the way the league is going. It's a tough situation. I will say this before we move on to the next topic. For everybody that says it's okay to draft running backs as long as you don't pay them, I think this is a good example of if you draft a player and he's good, this thing, it's not easy just letting him walk in free agency. It's an idealistic thing that a lot of us nerds have come up with of, it's okay to draft a player at a let's say not premium position as long as you let them walk when it's time to pay them. These players are wising up to this and saying, no, you're not using me for 4 years and letting me walk when I'm out of my prime. We want to get paid. And so this is an example of the rubber meets the road sometimes with players. And it's not as simple as just treating them like they're an asset. So that's one example.